You're right on time for Morning Cafe. A very good morning to you on this 3rd day of March 2026. It's a bright Tuesday morning. It's raining. Actually, no, it's not bright. It's raining this morning.
Early in the morning, yes, numbingly cold here in Nairobi. I trust that you had a lovely restorative night and you're ready for the day. We're here to give you a good early, cheery start of the morning. And of course, my name is Dibala.
My name is Anne Odida. It's World Hearing Day today. It's meant to create awareness on early ear problems and also just take a deep look into treatments of hearing impairment. So if you have ear problems, if you're not hearing the director clearly today, Diba, then at least you need to get that checked.
I know what you're hinting at, yeah. So with my earpiece here, very important, of course, for the host, but important conversation we'll be having much later. Also on my segment, we'll be having the champions of humanity. Very important. Nobel laureates are here and we'll be talking to them regarding a raft of issues as far as humanity is concerned, looking at the environment, looking at peace. And of course, when it comes to peace, we know what is happening with the global tensions right now, very important. And that is bound also to affect also the environment.
Absolutely. Then later on, we'll be talking about the unemployment situation in Kenya. What is the solution? So the question you're asking this morning, can TVET, private sector partnerships, solve youth and employment? That is our question of the day, and it's also a conversation starting 8 a.m. Use the hashtag Morning Cafe TV47. Socials TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube on X at TV47 Digital. While you comment while you're at it, you can tag us at @Dida as my handle. What's your handle?
@Dibala is my Twitter handle.
What do you think? Can TVET private sector partnership solve youth unemployment in this country?
Yeah, well, it's that's a way to go, partnership. The president has been very particularly intent on the PPPs, as they call it. So enhancing education sector through the TVET is a way to go. And we see so many, even from the people who are the students who've actually done the KCSEs, you know, they're done with their secondary education right now that we've really transitioned to CBE. Most of them are electing right now to go for TVET institutions because they want that practical skills. So it's not really a matter of where we used to have a lot of cramming, you know, what they call the mag and the jag theory, yeah? So they pour into you, so you regurgitate all that during the exams. That is no longer the case. This is now practical. People want to get hands-on as far as skills is concerned. Very important for skill sets development.
You know, while we talk about that, some say that, you know, the job environment in Kenya is quite limited for that. So while we are producing skills and personnel who are qualified, even as you say that the government right now is very big on PPPs and CBE, which is also skill-based, then where are they going? They're going to an environment where jobs are limited. The industrial growth is also quite slow. So the question is, okay, they're
not even in this industrial growth itself. We have the Federation of Kenya Employers who have been questioning the caliber of graduates that we also produce, right? Because after that, they have to spend a lot of resources trying to retrain the graduates because there's a gap, you know, between the labor skills and what also these graduates are bringing to bear. So there's a lot of retraining they have to do. And this has been such a concern to the employers. They have a report, and that report since 2008 has never been different, that the caliber is declining. So they have to retrain. And this is where TVET is coming in. Right?
Maybe if employers could also be looped in to start training, even as, you know, these graduates start training from the very first day they go into school, then the employers are working with them such that, you know, the curriculum also fits what employers need. I feel that would solve the problem. But TVET itself, I doubt if it will solve it.
So they need to pick it up. You know, like what the Oriental countries they normally do, they begin with hands-on skills very early.
Employers.
So it's not about just books and reading. It's you going to the workshop, you know, electrical workshop, mechanical workshop. You just get the basics of what is, mechanical theory. What are the basics of movement and motion? You actually put to it, well, you are at a very formative foundational stage during those, what they call, I can say 0 to 7, very important. And you find even in the Nordic countries, people who are training the young people in the kindergarten are not your typical D+, teachers who are, they never say, okay, this is the option. They're actually people who have, they have PhDs behind and doctorate behind their names. These are scientists because they know how pivotal and important for that particular brain development in that formative stage, so that once you miss the 0 to 7 years, is very hard now to actually try and train that particular mind that is very malleable during those 0 to 7 years. So it is very, different from how we do it here in the country. So this is where they pick the skills. So it is in their system once now they get to the TVETs and these, mechanical institutions, the MITs, so by then they're actually just refining their skills.
All right. Talk to us. Do you think this could solve the youth unemployment situation in the country? Once again, our question of the day: can TVET, private partnerships solve youth unemployment in Kenya? Use the hashtag Morning Cafe TV47. Our socials: TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 Digital. You can tag us at Ann_Odida.
At Debola in air.
All right, let's take a look at the state of the weather. All right, let's see how the weather's looking this morning across various parts of the country. We start off in Machakos. It's raining this morning. It is 16 degrees. Highs of 24 degrees expected today. In Wajir, it's also raining, but it's very, very hot today. Highs of 34 degrees expected. This morning it's 24 degrees. Narok, also raining. It's 13 degrees this morning. Highs of 22 degrees expected today in Narok. We take a look at Nyeri as well. It's also raining, 13 degrees this morning, highs of 22 degrees. And Busia, 17 degrees. It's a warm day, but it's also raining, as I've said, and highs of 26 degrees expected today. Kwale, this morning is 24 degrees. Heavy rains expected in Kwale County today, highs of 31 degrees. So that's how the weather is looking across various parts of the country. Let's take a look at the quote of the day.
Find out who you are and do it on purpose.
All right, let's see what is fresh off the press this morning. We begin with the Daily Nation, and this is a story that has been headlining the pages of the news media since then, and it's all about the Iran war. Why Ruto took sides on Iran war is what is the splash on the front page of the Daily Nation today. Backlash, it says. Oil and gas prices are surging with conflicts disrupting global supplies. There's this niggling worry about this global tensions that is rising right now as Kenyans trapped in the Middle East speak out. Diplomacy after President Ruto's apparent criticism of Tehran for targeting other countries. The Foreign Affairs Ministry has clarified that Kenya is opposed to the spread of violence. Beyond the main protagonists, you have a story well fleshed out for you on page 4, 5, 6, 7, and 20 of today's publication. And you can see a related picture there, the devastation, smoke bellowing after an Israeli strike on Beirut's and southern suburbs yesterday following an escalation between Hezbollah and Israel amid the U.S.-Israeli conflict with Iran. And we're worried about this. Of course, everyone is, and how the devastation is going to contract the supplies, we can see as for now, the latest that we do have is also the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. And so this will mean rerouting all this ship, and all that routes will take longer, and it will be expensive. And this is bound also to be affecting our pockets as we know it. And again, we have our trade partnership with Iran. We have around 56 billion shillings that is going to, or 5.6 billion shillings that is going to be affected because of this. That is our tea export to Iran. Still on the front page of the Daily Nation, from Artur brothers to Sudan's RSF immigration boss in passport saga. And we have here Miss Evelyn Cheluget, the Director General of Immigration Services, by virtue of our post, faces scrutiny after reports that a Sudan paramilitary leader was given a Kenyan passport. The case rekindles her past role in the issuance of work permits to notorious Armenian brothers. This story is on page 10 of the Daily Nation this morning. Also looking at the back page of the Daily Nation, local agency makes major step in fighting against doping menace is what we have on the back page of the Daily Nation this morning. You know, and it has been, of course, a catnip issue when we talk about the passport saga. And now they're dialing back the time machine, going back to the Armenian brothers, if you may remember, and how they were invading some of the media houses. People wondering, who are these Armenian brothers truly? They're untouchable, you know, and they have all this audacity and temerity to showcase some, you know, arrogance that is just beyond it beggars description. And people doggedly followed, and they saw, okay, there's actually some very powerful people in the country, in the upper reaches of government, who are behind the Armenian brothers. So once we see these passports, and of course this is a very sacred document, this is what I identify me as a Kenyan, and I'm proud of it, and I see it also in some faces where this is not Kenya again and is attached to atrocities around Africa when we're talking about Sudan and what has been happening, the man's inhumanity there. We are bound to really worry. Yeah, you can follow this story inside the Daily Nation today. We shall also be discussing this around the whole saga of peace and humanity, especially when we talk to Lema Agbowi, from Nigeria. She's a Nobel Laureate, of course, winner, and she's been that votary of peace in Liberia, where there have been tensions between the Christians and the Muslims since 2003. So this will really resonate with her as far as the war is concerned, and the passports sagas as well. On your side?
All right, Taifa Leo still talks about what's happening in Iran. Masaibu ya Wakenya waliokwama vitani. Anasema kwamba ni hofu wa Kenya ni kati ya raia wa kigeni na wenyeji katika mataifa ya Mashariki ya Kati. Wasioruhusiwa kutoka majumbani mwao hata kurejea katika nchi zao hawawezi, kwani safari nyingi za ndege ni marufuku. Hofu ni tele kutokana na mashambulizi ya Iran dhidi ya kambi za jeshi za Amerika katika ukanda huo. Hayo yanajiri huku Ruto akionekana kuunga Amerika. Habari kamili katika ukurasa wa pili na 8 wa gazeti hili. Takriban Wakenya 1400 wanaoishi katika mataifa ya Mashariki ya Kati wajaa hofu ya kushambuliwa. Iran yesterday said we need not to worry about any attacks that would possibly be, you know, aimed at Kenya, because they say that is it a missile program that the range is a bit too far, about 2,000 something, 2,000 and something thereabout, that we cannot really get attacked, even as, you know, we also host some of the US air bases in the country, but are not too big to cause alarm for the people of Iran. Yeah,
so it's a good assurance. But it's also, sometimes they speak diplomatically. So if they're targeting all these American installations around, well, we don't know if that is just an assurance from a diplomatic speak. We are not really, but of course we have to say, every person has to be just armed and prepared in light of what is happening. You can just be resting on your laurels. Yeah, you can't. You can't take chances. You know, so also our military, they have to be on the alert. Anything could happen right now, because we have some of these countries also around here, Sudan, you know, we have even South Sudan as well. We have people who have geopolitical interest around some of those Horn of Africa countries. Somalia here also has been steeped in war for the longest time. So we cannot just say, oh, that is a faraway war. It cannot reach us. Yeah, you never know how these concentric circles will just widen and affect you in some way.
We might be casualties. You think so?
I'm not saying we might be. I'm just saying be prepared. Be on the alert. Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, that's the main story on the front page of Taifa Leo this morning. It's also covered on page 2 and 8, and other quick headlines. Mgogoro wa ndoa ya ODM na UDA wa chacha. Kundi la waasi lataka ushirikiano wa Ruto na ODM uvunjwe kwa kutotimizwa ahadi. Urafiki tata wa Ng'eno. Kuna watu watatu hapa: Rais William Ruto, Johana Ng'eno na Rigathi Gachagua. Maswali yamezidi kuibuka kuhusu msimamo wa kisiasa wa mbunge wa Emurua Dikir, huyo ni Johana Ng'eno, ambaye aliaga dunia Jumamosi katika ajali ya helikopta. Hii ni baada aliyekuwa naibu wa rais Rigathi Gachagua kutoa madai yaliyoashiria kuwa alikuwa na uhusiano wa karibu wa kisiasa na mbunge huyo aliyekuwa akihudumu kwa muhula wake wa 3. Ni habari katika kurasa wa 2. Kule juu, koti ya Zima aliyekosa mchango wa WhatsApp alishtaki kundi la kijamii katika WhatsApp kwa kutomchangia. Oh, wow. Na masuala ya spoti pale imezungumziwa. Real waweka ofa mezani kusajili Rodri. Pata uhondo wa spoti, udaku, bashiri, ratiba na matokeo katika jarida Bomba katika ukurasa wa 13 wa gazeti hili Taifa Leo.
All right, up next is Standard. You won't believe it, Adani knocking again. Right, they have the temerity, they have a chick to do it, and this is what is headlining the front page of the Standard this morning. The current orders issued have perpetually limited my clients, that is the Kenya Airports Authority, and most especially Adani Group, since we intend to initiate a fresh process for the redevelopment of the airport. And this is the Benson Oduwopar, the Kenya Airports Authority lawyer, and Tony Gashoka, an activist, saying that what's clear is that Ruto's government is looking for any legal path void of public participation. A conservatory order, as issued by the High Court, is a 360-degree protection for the JKIA from Adani or any other party from touching our airport. Very significant, of course. We are holding court also with the Tony Gashoka just last week regarding this. They've moved to court also to get conservative orders on the sale of Safaricom, and it's still on Adani, saying these are public institutions that need to be protected, and public participation is very key, so that we don't know if there are any nefarious activities around it, if the proper financial or procurement proprieties followed, so that is not really floated, that includes also the public participation, and is not one single sourcing, that it has been advertised, and everyone has done also, public bidding, then that can be said to be a clean deal that has transpired. This is a cunning maneuvers, one of the stormiest issues, they say here, that shook the Ruto administration in the aftermath of the Gen Z protest nearly 2 years ago was a plan to lease a key national asset, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, to controversial Indian billionaire Gautam Adani under the guise of upgrading it. Now, days after a fresh court session on the matter, members of the opposition claim state operators are hunting for legal loopholes to quietly push Adani back into a deal on JK. You have the story well fleshed out for you on page 4 and 5 of today's publication of The Standard. And also just flipping back on the sports page, it's only God who will save Watoto wa Mungu from relegation. That is what we have on the back page of the sports segment of The Standard. 3 teams will be relegated to the Super League automatically at end of the season. Bidco out of bottom 3 That is after win over Ulinzi and Sofapaka. APS, Bomet lose again. You have all the gritty details there on the back page. Why Liverpool slot does not like set-piece trend. If you're also a football buff, you can follow that on the back page of the Standard.
All right, let's take a look at the People Daily this morning. Talks about what's currently happening in the northeastern region. Kenya's broken food security plan, it has been covered in page 4. People Daily calls it a starving nation. You know that 23 counties in this country, the ASAL counties,
Yes.
Facing drought and starvation. About 3.3 million people have been affected so far. So this newspaper is asking, where are we going wrong with regard to food security? What is the government doing to protect these people, these 3.3 million people in the northeastern region? Starving nation, Kenya's broken food security. And it's also raining. That means as there are other counties who are also getting affected by the floods that are being experienced across various parts in the country, which of course the weatherman has already issued an alert to those areas to be quite careful with the floods even as the rains continue. So what happens to the other 23 counties, the 3.3 million people who are facing starvation in the northeastern region?
So careful means what? Moving to the higher grounds. Move to the higher grounds.
Move to the higher grounds?
Which are the higher grounds? Who's higher grounds?
Which higher grounds?
So this is where they're left actually on the sharpest edge of the horns of a dilemma.
Yeah.
You're told to move to the higher grounds. The flash floods are here. They're going to affect you adversely.
Yeah.
So you've been living there for all your life. You're wondering which is the higher ground.
Yeah.
You go to the mountains or what? To the mountain coves. You tuck yourself there on the crevices. They should speak very clearly if government should give alternatives, even if it's a camp somewhere that has been set up, for them to move to the higher grounds. Give an alternative. Just don't tell, move to the... All of you, en masse, move to the higher grounds.
But as early as now. You remember what happened in Mayu, I think last year, but one? It was too late by the time, whatever happened, the tragedy that occurred in Mayu happened. Then it was late when they were now being transferred to these camps for rescue. So if at all the weatherman is issuing an alert, why not start as early as now to try and avert maybe something that would become worse as in comparison to what we saw in Mayu in 2020. Was it 2023 or 2024? 2024, 2025, thereabout. So that's the main story on the front page of the People Daily this morning. Other quick headlines: Auditor General, land meant for children's institutions grabbed. That's a story covered on page. This is page 6 of the People Daily. And as world remembers Wangari Maathai, is Karura at risk again? Is a question People Daily is asking on page 11. You're talking about environment today, Diba?
Yeah. Very, very important. Of course, we'll be having Wangari Maathai to tell us more on that particular question. Very pivotal, right? We remember Wangari Maathai. Karura is at risk. People have been talking about the NOS setting a barracks there.
Yeah.
And this has raised questions. This is one of the pivotal, carbon sink and the lungs of a city. The clean air that as we're coming here, other parts of the city, it is dry as a crunch. But when you come to Karura, you'll find showers. And this is just because of the canopy of forest that we have around as well. We shall be discussing that much, much later.
All right.
All right, we have the business daily. Let's buckle down to business. And I just alluded to the fact that this global tensions that is arising right now because of Iran and USA-Israeli war is bound to be affecting us. And this will derail talks on the 5.6 billion shillings Kenya tea deal. Right now that you're sipping and knocking back your tea, this can actually be expensive for us as well. Losing this revenue to export to Iran. Negotiations sought to lift export blockade. Nairobi goes slow on fears of upsetting U.S. Gulf state. So this is where you have to be very also keen on how you can balance your leanings. And once you show like the way we can see it on the front page of a Daily Nation, it's bound to affect you in one way or the other. We've seen also how U.S., especially the Senate, has been railing Kenya because of our association with some of these countries, saying that we are not loyal. Yeah, so we are two-timing, and it's very key. Talks between Kenya and Iran on the resumption of tea exports. That's very key. Also, still on the front page of the Business Daily, bank profits rise 20% to hit 311 billion shillings on lower costs, right? If you want to just get to business, get to banking. I've never seen super profits, super normal profits all the time. And this story is tucked away on page 4 of the Business Daily this morning. I think because one of their single most biggest customers is the government. And that also affects the local borrowing. On the ticker, MPs seek powers to inspect 80 billion shillings securitized revenues. The National Assembly wants powers to inspect the securitization of government revenue streams in the funding of key projects, it says there. And shares trading costs to rise on higher CDSC fees plan on page 14 is where you can find that particular story. That is the Business Daily. Quickly,
Finally, the Star Rigathi deal.
Finally, brethren.
A lifeline or landmine for Sifuna camp. Unless one reaction of core support base, the biggest risk. What is this deal that Rigathi Gachagua is offering the Sifuna camp? Linda Wananchi. What is the deal? This story is on page 6.
Well, the deal has been there. Sifuna has indicated that we shall not be shy or greatly shy to work with people of like-mindedness. And of course, there could be that particular faction of ODM joining Rigathi Gachagua. So we are waiting to see how. What will determine is this March, 27th. Everyone is eagerly waiting to see what will be the outcome of and the survival and the future of ODM.
That's the story on page 6. And the quick header is here. Hooked to machine hoping for India. Fiona's 9 million shillings plea. Duale on Shah reforms, fraud crackdowns, cancer cover, digital health. That's a special coverage here on the front page of the Star. On the top strip, talks matters in security, gun capital, crime surge in city as cops scramble for answers. That's the Star this morning. Being a Tuesday, the Star is not for sale. Grab a copy free of charge. Let's take a look at the caricatures this morning. And we start off with the one on the Daily Nation. Talks about the passport saga. Warlords and political brokers, how it's easy for them to just go in and get the passports. On the other side, we see it all. Kenyan citizens, how there's something blocking Kenyans from easily accessing these passports. And then you have expatriates. ATM, how, they just do some calculations, some money, and then, they get passports so easily. That's the caricature and the Daily Nation this morning.
And that's the reality, all right? For you, will queue all day long. But for them, it just scams us so easily when some money is there. We have also the People Daily, and it's all about the 2027 campaigns that has begun in earnest. On your mark, IBC, go. Yeah? But IBC has not declared that the campaign season is on. But we've seen guys have really jumped the gun as it is right now, and they've started in earnest. As you can see, all the dailies is all about deals. Where are they today? Where are they this weekend? Which church? In fact, the church has become notoriously, a campaigning soapbox for these politicians, and we needs to be interrogated in the compliance in flouting the election, electoral conduct as well. This is the People Daily.
The Standard, a right to picket on one side. Kenyans are championing on their right to picket, but on the other hand, we see county's kitty. Here, there's somebody who has carried county kitty, and he says right to pocket. So while Kenyans are fighting for the right to picket, politicians are doing something there, right to pocket.
All right, the Star, right, is all about the smorgasbord, as you can see it, right, sliding there is all about the chair, that is the deputy president's chair, that everyone is waiting to see who will actually sit on that particular chair. So that is what is the circus right now as far as the politics is concerned. And looking at what Ozona has drawn inside the Star today, everyone is gagging for this seat, as you can see it there.
All right. Let's cross over our borders now. Uganda, New Vision talks about government releasing new salary structures, list of salaries by grade inside this newspaper, and of course move to standardized pay for externally funded projects. It's a story on page 10. The Daily Monitor, war to fuel pump prices. That's another story here, and it has been given prominence on page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 pages in total. War to fuel pump prices talks about the cost of war that is currently going on in Iran, the US-Israel war with Iran, global oil prices and how they will start to climb. You've talked about how the Strait of Hormuz has been closed, and that means that it will affect how oil is, transported to various countries. So that's what this newspaper is talking about this morning. What to fuel prices. That's crossover to Bongo now. Tanzania, gazeti la Mwananchi. Siri nyuma mpango Bank of Tanzania kuuza dhahabu, ni habari kuu pale katika ukurasa wa mbele wa gazeti la Mwananchi. Na finally, the Citizen, gold reserves, central bank chief speaks out. The same story on Bank of Tanzania. The governor says the initial plan was to have 20 tons in gold reserves within 3 years, but this target was achieved 18 months ahead of schedule, thus necessitating the sale of part of the stockpile for specific policy purposes. That's the Citizen this morning, and that's as far as the local dailies and the regional dailies are concerned. Once again, the conversations we're having this morning, Debal, what are you having?
Well, just to attend a reminder, Champions of Humanity, I'll be holding court this morning with Alexandra Matvichuk. She is from Ukraine. She's a Nobel Laureate winner, a stalwart of democracy. And also I shall be holding court with Layman Gbowe from Liberia. And she's also a Nobel Laureate winner. She has been very pivotal in making sure there is a happy medium between the Christians and the Muslims in Liberia. Remember, Liberia has also been at the center of the flashpoints of war and how the devastation has affected that particular country. It harks back, of course, to when we had also Liberia being one of the settlements for the Christians there. And we'll just be doggedly following that particular story and how she's been very pivotal in making sure that peace is restored in that particular country. Our own also, Wangari Maathai, she's here, an environmentalist fighting for the spaces here, the green spaces in the country, recognized by the Time magazine as one of the 100 most influential persons in the world because of her work in environment. We shall be getting deeper into this, just looking at the environment, looking at peace that is very critical. The Ukraine war also, is it now being swallowed up by the USA and the Iran-Israeli war? We shall be discussing this with our Champions of Humanity on the other side of the break. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe, and this morning I'm greatly honored to be sitting amongst beautiful women who are doing humanity justice. They're champions of humanity in different facets of humanity when you're talking about man's inhumanity to man. And there is a fragility of peace. We have them in that particular space. When you're talking about the environment, the degradation of the environment, the people, the planet, of course, and the profits when we're talking about the PPPs, and as well, they are there as well. And when we're talking about peace as it is again in Ukraine, what has been happening with the global tensions rising right now as far as the geopolitics is concerned, with the US, Iran and Israeli war also here. And this is none other than Alexandra Matvichuk. She's one of the most prominent human rights defender in Ukraine, and she's a chairwoman of the Center for Civil Liberties. And she'll be talking a lot about installing democracy and also just trying to get a happy medium as far as war is concerned. And also we do have with us as well Maria Butler. She is a director of the Nobel Women Peace. That is a Nobel Women Initiative. Yes, you'll be talking also around this particular issue of how they managed to look out for the women who are trying to mainstream gender issues in the world as well. And Wangari Maathai, she is an environmentalist here in the country, globally also recognized by the Time magazine as one of the most influential persons as far as fighting for the environment is concerned. Welcome to all of us. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
I will have served you some tea, but of course you can knock back some water. Yeah, so I did get your preference, coffee, cappuccino, water, that would do as well. But glad to have you this morning. Thank you so very much. Okay, let's just begin on a lighter note, because I think this is affecting every one of us when we look at the current trends with the global tension that is happening right now. Since Saturday, people have been having this niggling worry. How is it going to affect me as a person? How is it going to affect us as a country? And we've seen people now, they're on alert. I don't know, what is your take? We can just begin with you, Maria Butler, from what is your own assessment?
Yeah, totally. I flew through Doha on the way here. So I just made it out a few hours before the airspace closed. And one of our dear laureates is here with us from Iran, Dr. Shirin Ebadi, and one of our sister laureates is imprisoned in the northwest of Iran. So it is very close to our hearts. But one thing that Dr. Shirin Ebadi, the first woman judge in Iran, said to us was, it is women of Iran who will open the gates of democracy. And everyone here just said, yes. It's true.
Women of Iran who will open the doors of democracy. They have been on the forefront. You see, they've been fighting back also, should I say, the clammy fingers of Sharia, so to speak. They want to, just be themselves, not really clouded by the cloud of religion as it is right now. They're being stifled by it. So we missed it by whiskers, actually, the closure. Yeah, you're scared by the skin of the skin of our teeth.
And we've had such a beautiful welcome here in Kenya on a historic day, and asante sana to the Wangari Maathai Foundation and to all the people who have welcomed us.
Of course, the biggest day being the commemorating what Wangari Maathai has done for this particular country. And we always remember her, deeply fighting for the spaces, which we shall be discussing as well, looking at Karura Forest, where it was, her sort of close to her heart and what is happening currently. All right, let's come to Alexandra as well. Good morning, good to see you.
Good morning.
Yeah, you look very composed, cool, calm and collected, cool waters. Yeah, welcome to the program. And I know also looking at Ukraine and looking at what is happening currently with the US and Iran and Israeli war, you have so much to speak about, because you've seen the rigors of it. You've seen people bearing the brunt of women, the children who have been dying so far. People thought this war will taper off, but it's still holding on. You have been trying to fight in your own space for that particular note. You can just give us a glimpse of what is your take with the current state of war.
I'm a human rights lawyer, and I'm documenting war crimes in this war which Russia has launched against Ukraine. And while this war turns people into the numbers, what we are literally doing, we are returning people their names, because people are not numbers, and life of each person matters.
Yes.
We have in our database more than 98,000 episodes of Russian war crimes, because Russia can't win on the battlefield, and that is why Russia uses war crimes against civilians as the main method of this war. And this war is a bright example of the global state of affairs, where UN system based on UN Charter and international law has been collapsed and can't protect people against wars and authoritarianisms, because Putin attempts to convince that country who have military potential, nuclear weapon, and much bigger than their neighbor, can a legitimate right to invade to another country, to kill people there, to erode their identity, to steal their children.
Very devastating, very devastating. So far in your line of work, what has been standing out, especially with these atrocities that we've seen on women and children? Is the number really ticking up? Has it tapered off? Do we need to, of course, call the attention of the world to this atrocity that is happening? Has the world also lost its vision and focus on Ukraine and forgotten this particular war because of a war fatigue? People say, okay, we are war fatigued. I mean, we are inundated with this negative news all along.
It's natural, unfortunately, and that is why we lost human dimension completely. When we look to this peace negotiation, which was initiated by President Trump, they discussed natural minerals, Russia's territorial claims, geopolitical interests, but they don't speak about people at all. They speak about occupied territories, like this is empty spaces, but they're not empty spaces. Millions of Ukrainians live there, and these people find themselves in gray zone. They have no tools how to protect their rights, their freedom, their property, their life, their children. And Russian occupation is not just changing one state flag to another. Russian occupation means enforced disappearances, torture, rape, denial of your identity, forcible adoption of your own children, filtration camps, and mass graves. This is Russian occupation.
So the focus is just about the rare arts, you know, the humanities forgotten in that. That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
This is a man's humanity to man. You know, the pivotal person that he is affected is the human person. Wanjira, let's just come to you and discuss this big day here, reflecting, you know, just the component of environment is just one of it, looking at the specter of war that is also being affected. But we can talk about today, because it is a big day in remembrance of Professor Wangari Maathai as well. You have been a stalwart, you've taken this baton, you've moved on with it, and you've been recognized as very influential in that particular space. What is your take?
Well, first of all, I'm so excited that we have the Nobel Women's Initiative here to celebrate with us. And as you mentioned, Alessandra is quite simply one of the most courageous women in the world. She leads the Center for Civil Liberties. They won the Nobel Peace Prize. We have 3 Nobel Peace Prize laureates in town, in Nairobi, as we speak. Let that settle in.
We should be popping the champagne in the morning.
It is a special thing, and I want to thank Alessandra because she's opening our eyes about what's happening, and that's what this day is about. Wangari Maathai Day is also World Wildlife Day. It's also Africa Environment Day, and so it's a moment to reflect on what really is important for us. The human dimensions of the environment, the human dimensions of conflict. We are right now surrounded at where we are gathering this week for, yesterday was 250 activists from around the world talking about what their responsibility is to the next generation, to the environment, to each other. That's what this day is about. This day is celebrating Wangari Maathai's legacy, yes, but what's that legacy? That legacy is solidarity. That legacy is speaking truth to power. That's why you say we're talking about our environment as our life support systems, those were her words. So this is what today is about. So yeah, we are really excited. We're especially excited to be here with our sisters to celebrate this day.
Thank you so much. And let me just come to Maria so far, because when we're talking about women who are doing this incredible work in the spaces, different spaces as well, you as an organization, I'm inclined to wonder then, how do you, you know, put your feelers out there to learn what they're doing, that you can recognize someone in the tiniest locality of the world doing sterling work, and then you get to reward them, you get to recognize them. What is the metrics that you normally use? Because I normally wonder, how did you even, you know, recognize of Wangari Maathai's legacy, what she was doing? Did you, by then, we didn't even have the TikToks and people sharing,
Right.
So, well, how, would you just kindly tell us?
Do you know that Professor Maathai and two of the other laureates, they founded Nobel Women's Initiative here in Nairobi over tea.
Over tea?
Yeah, a great thing can happen over tea. I know.
Are you inkling something that shall get some tea instead of water?
Yes. So they, you know, they came together at that time. In the history of the Nobel Peace Prize, only 19 women have won, and almost 100 men. And it's the women that said, let's work together. Let's use our individual power collectively. Not for ourselves, but for the community. So we're also just really excited that here with us in town are young women activists from all over the world. They're teachers and mothers and scientists and professors and lawyers and poets, and they're peace activists in Palestine, Sudan, Yemen, Colombia, all over the world they've traveled. And what I see that unites them is definitely a commitment to the collective work of humanity. And that's what the laureates inspired in their work. But I see it in many, many people in our communities. I'm from a small Irish village, and I grew up with 8 aunties, a big Irish family, strong women. And I learned from my grandmother, my mother, my aunties about community work. And you're absolutely right. Its impact starts at the community level. And we heard that yesterday. It's the farmers, it's the women that are teaching in schools, bringing their kids this morning to school. And we see all that work and that care and that humanity.
And that is the concentric circles that grows wider and wider and impacting the entire world. Let me come to you, Alexandra, and just ask you about you know, the democratic space that is there, very shrinking in light of people saying it's not about the multipolar world anymore. People are just navel-gazing about their interest first. It's about nationalism. It's about our interest as a country, our foreign policy. We are configuring it to just focus on us. In your space where you have been advocating for democracy, how has nationalism, you know, really come to bear to affect, you know, the discovery and the realization of democracy?
We are losing freedom in the world. 80% of people in the world live in non-free or partially free societies. This means that just 20% of people in the world have a real right to vote for whom they want to vote, who have a real right to say what they want to say, have a real right to love whom they want to love. And this is a global problem. And that's why it's so important that Ukrainians are fighting for freedom in all senses. For freedom to be independent country, but not Russian colony. For freedom to preserve our Ukrainian identity and not to be forced to educate Ukrainian children as Russians. And for freedom to have our democratic choice, like a chance to build a country where the rights of everybody are protected, government is accountable, judiciary is independent, and police do not beat students who are peacefully demonstrating. And we are paying the highest price for this chance. And you know, there are a lot of global challenges to democracy.
Indeed.
And I think that we have to counteract with these challenges to support each other in our fight for freedom. Because solidarity has no national borders.
I like that. I like that. Then talk to us about the challenges that really comes to bear on your side when we have a country like Ukraine right now. I don't know how free the media is in you trying to document some of its atrocities of that is happening within your country right now, exacerbated by Russia, of course, in trying to just come up with a formidable report. Because when we have these atrocities beamed out by the media, it becomes very easy. How has that frustrated you in terms of just collecting data and collating data?
It's not easy, frankly speaking, because we are not just documenting violations of Geneva and Hague conventions. We are documenting human pain. And when you are on a daily basis documenting this pain, working with torture cases, with cases of sexual violence, cases of extrajudicial killings, and have no legal tools how to stop Russian atrocities, you feel broken. Let me illustrate it with one story. Last year, I met occasionally a 5-year-old girl, and we work with case of her mother. They both live under Russian occupation, and her mother was illegally abducted because she has pro-Ukrainian sympathy, which is not a crime for citizens of Ukraine to love their country. It's very natural. But she was abducted, illegally detained, and tortured. And when I read the testimonies, I had no idea how she survived because she went through the multiple gang rape by Russians. And then when I met your daughter, occasionally, probably the adults who accompanied her daughter told that I'm an important person, being a Nobel Peace Prize laureate. And she immediately approached me. She hugged me. She started crying. And she started begging me, please return my mom. And I felt broken because I'm a professional human rights lawyer, but I have no tool how to return her mom from Russian captivity because Russia ignores all norms of international law. Russia ignores all decisions of international organizations.
What a heart-wrenching story. I know. Yeah, okay, let's just come to you, Wangari, because the reality of it, when you're talking about your space, the climate space, environment, we have the Trumpism doctrine, you know, pulling away from all these agreements we've had, the Paris agreements, resources, and even saying climate change is a hoax. I wonder how you take it, you as an environmentalist championing, of course, you know, for climate change as well.
Well, you know, the climate change has a lot of politics involved in it as well. But I think that the most important thing to stay focused on is all climate action is local. And so what really, really matters is what we do here in Kenya for us. And that we shouldn't be too overwhelmed by the political discourse because ultimately the action and the impacts will be here locally. That's why we're focused quite locally for the work that we do, both at the Greenbelt Movement, the Wangari Maathai Foundation, and the World Resources Institute where we work. We try not to get caught up in political discourse or climate discourse. What does it, in the final analysis, mean for Kenya today? Because the impacts, unfortunately, for Africans and most in the global south will be much, much worse, even though we've done very little to cause the problem. So it doesn't matter whether you deny climate, climate is happening, impacts are changing, rainfall patterns are changing. Our agriculture is devastated by that. So what really matters? We have to make a decision. My decision is to focus on local action. Local action.
Talking of local action, we've seen the recent report. I'll be remiss if I don't really ask you about the NIS barracks being, you know, put up within the center of Karura Forest as it is. And we have people now raising uproar regarding this. It's going to affect the canopy of the entire forestation.
Well, we should all be concerned because we know that ultimately around the world, Kenya is known as a conservation leader. And conservation has to be guided by science, by law, and by public participation. We cannot have a situation where we say one thing and we do differently. That's why, for me, the mirror is what we do locally. And so the action in Karura is unfortunate, obviously. This is a forest that is the lung of our city. It is absolutely loved by everyone. We know what it means for the employment it has created, the impact it has for our city. And so to have it treated like it is, to build barracks inside, it's an unfortunate decision. But this is not even, again, it's not a political decision. This is about transparency, law, and public participation. It is an asset of the people. So to ask questions about what is happening, when was the environmental impact assessment done, what does it look like, ought to be welcome. And so for us, the big concern is that if this is happening in Karura, what else is happening? We've got to be guided by science. We know how important these forests are, by the law. The Community Forest Association co-management of forests is in our constitution, and by public participation. This is the hallmark of our constitution. So we ought to all be concerned. So I hope you will be talking about this all day.
Indeed, indeed.
Wangari Maathai Day.
Yeah, because public participation is all, as you say, the hallmark of all this. And there has been also that particular intent from the citizenry to make sure everything, we have a voice in it. Because we have a stake, it's going to affect our country in one way or the other. Absolutely. And the question that that becomes with that particular assessment of the public participation, what has maybe you as an organization been trying to do to advocate for public participation in all the spaces? We're not really talking about Karura Forest. We're talking about Gong Forest, right? People trying to put installations. We're talking about the Masai Mara. That will affect the great migration that has been, you know, one of the world's tourist attraction that, you know, is a jewel for this country and for the East African region as well.
Absolutely. We have to be concerned about all of it. And that's why, for me, having the Nobel Women's Initiative here with our sister laureates, solidarity is a big thing, because all of this comes down to the rule of law. We have guidelines. It's very clear what we do with the public trust. Public trust belongs to the public. We are not asking for permission. These are questions we must ask as good citizens of this country who care. So this is why it is a matter of Karura, but it's Aberdares, it's Mount Kenya. We've got to be concerned about our life support systems. These are the things we can control. There's a lot we cannot do, but there's a lot we can do. You know, one of the unfortunate things about Karura is the best example of public and private participation. The Karura Forest Association, the Friends of Karura Forest, is the most, if not, let me say, one of the most successful partnerships with the forest. If that's frustrated, we ought to be concerned. What's not working? Why? Because all people of good intent must surely want the life support system of this city to stay intact. After all, at least when I listen to most politicians, Karura is a huge selling point of Nairobi. We cannot then have a political contradiction of then destroying it at the same time. So it's a real concern. And in a way, we're going to spend some time in Karura today. We'll be showing it to our sister laureates and the activists. And just to be in a space like that is to appreciate how lucky we are. Karura is the largest urban forest in Africa. No other country on this continent has an urban space green that big. We ought to be very concerned.
Yeah, we should. Want the wildlife on the other side as well. I mean, we've got very phenomenal scenery here in the city. But let me come to you and we discuss about now leadership, because I know also that is one of the key components of your initiative, trying to identify. Last year, I think I was in one of the sessions where the Global Peace Index was being launched, just trying to see how we are faring as the world with the globe. And it's tanking, it's not getting any better. And people are asking, are we going to get any better? In this particular space, how then do we mobilize and encourage women to speak, you know, to the voices where we have, should I say, a lot of testosterone around, that now we should lend some voice, that people maybe can have a voice of sobriety, because we have all this egoism also coming to bear in these conversations of peace.
Well, I was laughing because one of the sister laureates, Jody Williams, 1997 laureate from the US, and she won the prize for banning landmines. She often tells us Men have messed up the world. It is time for them to step aside and let women clean up the mess. So I have to quote Jodie because she is a visionary leader and she has no BS, you know. But leadership, yes, I think, and what I see in the young women, and the young women we've met in Kenya, wow. They are brave, they are hardworking, they have a vision for change. That's what really stuck with me about the story of Wangari Maathai. And every international, every person from around the world and every Kenyan must know her story about values and about vision. Those are the two things that come from your mother, and her journey in life was her vision and her values. And that's really the core of leadership, and I see it in so many places around the world.
So how then do you identify or encourage, do we have you as the initiative trying to mentor women around the world?
Yes.
You can speak about these mentorship programs that you...
We have a beautiful program called Sister to Sister.
Sister to Sister.
We have about over 140 now in our alumni. And each year we have a global call. So anyone in Kenya, anyone around the world can apply and be part of the, it's quite a competitive process to get in.
Oh, really?
But that's what makes it also beautiful. So they work together and learn different skills about communications, about environment, about care for each other and ourselves. That's what I'm also learning from young women. And as a mother of 3, how we sustain ourselves as activists working in conflict and peace zones is really important. And young women are asking this question. How do we sustain ourselves as mothers, as full-time workers, having so many responsibilities? And I think, you know, today on Wangari Maathai Day, and as a mother, but a leader, for all the women that may be watching, is what one thing can you do for yourself today? It can be small. It can be call your sister.
Yes.
And those are the things that keep us going.
That's little sparrow.
Yes,
right. What is the teeny tiny tinsy wincy little bit?
What's your little
you can
thing?
do?
What's your little
Yeah. Let me come to you, Alexandra. And you know, in a line of work, we can talk about trauma, even though in our spaces as well as news reporters, we come, you know, face to face with these realities. We see pictures that sometimes you don't bring to the public. And you've been there. Sometimes this trauma can affect you as a person. Even as you're the champion, you're the soldier and advocating of what is happening in Iran, vicariously, they get to you. How then do you also bear and manage this trauma? Because truly, when you have that little child really coming to you and saying, can you take me to my mama, please? It really gets to you, and you don't have the wherewithal, the mechanism, and you know, on how to get her to the mom.
People inspires me.
People inspire you.
Because we have a huge wave of solidarity in Ukraine, across the country. 4 years ago, when Russia started this brutal, large-scale invasion, not just Putin, but also international organizations were confident that Ukraine has no potential to resist to such enormous opposing military threat. And I was in Kiev. I refused to evacuate, and with a part of my team we continued our work on the ground. And I remember how international organizations evacuated their personnel. They left us alone, but ordinary people remained. And ordinary people started to do extraordinary things. It were ordinary people who helped to survive under artillery's fire. It were ordinary people who took people out from the ruined cities. It were ordinary people who broke through the encirclement to provide humanitarian aid. And suddenly it became obvious that ordinary people fighting for their freedom and human dignity are stronger than even the second army in the world. And my main lessons learned, based on my own experience, is that when you can't rely on the legal instruments, when you can't rely on UN system of peace and security, you can still rely on people. Because people have a much great power that they can even imagine.
people, people. And we want to come to the people, the planet, the profit, and we're talking about sustainability of the environment. I want just to latch on the people beat and also the profit beat, because in this particular space, as we're talking about the rare arts, it's all about the rare arts in Ukraine. It's all about the rare arts wherever they are, even here in the country. In Congo, you know, it's all about the rare arts. Right. Do you feel that humanity has taken prominence so much on profiteering and, you know, on the money bit of it and the profit bit of it to the expense of the people? Right. You know? And we can see there a lot of extraction that is really happening. We don't really care a fig about how the society will be adversely affected. But
right. I mean, thank you, Alessandra. She's brought such light to what matters, you know, the people. And it applies here too. We know just how important it is to invest in local leadership, to invest in local courage, because those are the people who will be left to this is home for you. In the final analysis, it's up to you to take up. We shouldn't be waiting for others to do it. And I think there's so many lessons there for us. But, you know, I was so inspired. Today is Wangari Maathai Day, so we must bring some of her metaphors. One of the metaphors that she loved was the metaphor of the three-legged stool. The idea that peace in any situation is about the sustainable management of the environment, democracy, a democratic space, she called it, and sustainable democracy and peace, right? So, and if you have the peace, sustainable management of the environment, and democratic space, you have sustainable development. The idea that it's not about acquisition for a few. Yes. It is equitable development. It is sustainable because it sustains itself. You have the resources that we have, that they must be deployed to the benefit of the people. But it is our leadership, it is our participation as people in processes that choose our leaders, that make decisions about how those resources will be spent and invested. All of that is connected. We must never see these as disparate parts. One of the things I learned from my mother was that it was all connected. The idea that she got the Peace Prize for environmental work was really pioneering. She was the first environmentalist to get the Nobel Peace Prize. It's not because the link was before then unknown. It was obvious that the environment is the source of all sustenance. Whether they're resources, mineral or otherwise, they come from the sustainable management of the environment. And without strong democratic space, they are not used in an equitable way. And so people suffer. So absolutely connected. We have a people-focused movement in this country. We have the youngest and fastest growing demographic of young people in this country. How we support them, deploy resources for their education, employment, quality employment is going to be critical for our own sustainable development. So all of this is connected in many ways. Indeed, indeed, indeed. And of course, I used to like it when she said you cannot protect the environment unless you empower people, right? You inform them. And you help them understand that these resources are their own, you know, so you need to take off the resources because they're yours at the end of the day. This is why Karura is such a metaphor for us, that if in a situation where we become complacent about our roles as active citizens, then we lose power, we lose even access to the very resources we're talking about. That's why we have to be inspired by the fact that it was the people who saved Karura. It was the people who saved Uhuru Park. It was the people who will save us. Indeed, indeed. What an enriching, trenchant conversation we're having here this morning. Wangari Maathai's Day, of course, celebrating Professor Wangari Maathai, a votary of peace and making sure that environmental justice is observed here in the country, going through the ringers and, of course, the hoops that she went through to make sure some of our sanctuaries that make this country to be what it is as far as greening is concerned are reserved and preserved. And we just want to get your feedback as well. And I'll be handing over to Anne
to just give us some of the feedback that is coming through so far, questions, contributions as well. Anne?
All right, Deval, we are just waiting for some of the feedback to come in with regard to the conversation you're having this morning and the question you're asking. Can climate action strengthen Kenya's economic and political stability? Use the hashtag Morning Cafe TV47, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube on our socials. Our WhatsApp number is 0793267279. Talk to us. Tell us what you think with regard to our question of the day. Can climate action strengthen Kenya's economic and political stability? Let's have some of the feedback. Peter from Nyeri says, yes, climate action means food security. If farmers are supported with irrigation and climate smart farming, the economy stabilizes. We have Amina from Garissa. She says, in ASAL areas, drought causes conflict. If we manage water and pasture better, we reduce insecurity. We have some more. Joseph from Nairobi says, climate action sounds good, but right now Kenyans are worried about jobs and the cost of living. This is Ruth watching from Nakuru. She says, green energy creates jobs. Solar and geothermal can employ thousands of young people. Hey, Daniel from Eldoret saying political stability depends on economic stability. If drought keeps rising food prices, tensions will rise. And let's cross over to X now. We get some feedback from X. Agri Voice KE says climate resilience equals stable food supply, equals lower inflation, is directly economic. Finally, from X Youth Policy 254 says green economy is the next employment frontier. Kenya should lead in Africa. That is the conversation we are having this morning on climate. Once again, our question of the day, if we can have it again on screen. Can climate action strengthen Kenya's economic and political stability? Talk to us. Use the hashtag Morning Cafe TV47, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, and X at TV47 Digital. Our WhatsApp number is 0793267279. You're watching Morning Cafe, Diba.
Many thanks indeed, and thank you for your feedback there. Very inspiring, just to note also you're following the conversation. And we continue pace through the conversation, and I want not to come to you, Maria Butler, just to ask also, you know, they always say we work in tandem and in cooperation with other organizations and making sure that we try and carry this burden of making sure that peace is restored where peace is, of course, has been affected. We're talking about warring factions around even here in Somalia, Sudan, as it is, atrocities that is happening in Ukraine. The reality is also they are very stuck here in Africa. I wonder how you've been observing also just the whole of Africa, especially when it comes to the welfare of the women. These stories that you're talking about is what I hear. Also from Congo, you know, the men, you know, coming and raping the women, not even just the women, even the children who are very young, you know, people who cannot even imagine that a man in your own sober man, you could do this. But these are the atrocities of war. They want to injure most to make sure that you're feeling the pain of it.
Well, the first time I came to Kenya was 20 years ago.
20 years ago?
Yeah. And I have met...
So you and Wangari have been getting famously along, or you even didn't know who Wangari was by
Oh my God, well, I know her, and she's been such a wonderful host, and we even danced together.
Oh, really? That's where it started, huh?
Yes, before we get to the
For Wangari Maathai, it started with tea, now yours, it started with dance.
Oh my gosh, the music.
Yes.
The music.
Before I get to the hard questions, the music here's been amazing. We had a great party.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
The Mugithi. Yeah, you took her to the Mugithi night.
We haven't even gotten there yet. We gave them the light version, which was the opening night celebration with the sisters, and this was such a. It was
what
almost
the band
like
name.
the Flower Project,
Oh,
an
wow.
all-woman
Wow.
band that is brilliant. They're just dynamic, fantastic. It was all night long.
What a memory. Good memories.
Yes. So, you know, we have worked with women from across the continent. We've had a consultation also here this week on Sudan with Sudanese women. And we heard about the root causes of the conflict, the arms flow into Iran and the international fueling of the conflict in Iran. I visited Juba, also very concerning rise of violence against women across the country. And I guess in our work, a few of the lessons are, one, militarism is not the answer. And talking about your question, there is a huge investment in militarism globally and on the continent. And I think the message we hear is, let's spend the money on schools, food, hospitals, the environment, and not on guns and weapons. And the second is the inclusion of women in peace process and decision-making spaces. Whether they're formal or informal, because a lot of decisions get made in the informal spaces. And women have been organizing in many different contexts as experts on the Constitution, as experts on science, and experts on disarmament. And it is really critical that we live up to the words and commitments and include women in all forms of decision making at the community level, the subnational level, the national level, the regional level, and globally. And those are two of the key messages that we hear across the continent.
Thank you. And Alexandra, when you come to just support as well, sometimes it can be very lonely, right? In your space of work, and you feel like, just I've said, this is such an Herculean task. How have you been working in tandem, of course, with the Nobel Women Initiatives and other organizations to just support your cause, where we have a spaces also of, they call it donor fatigue, and you feel like, okay, in light of what is happening with Trumpism doctrine, it covers a lot as well. That could have been flowing your way. Now it is, sort of shortchanged.
I'm first time in Kenya, and
This is your first time.
I'm excited
Jambo.
to be here.
Jambo bwana, hakuna matata.
And yesterday I had opportunity to address to the huge audience of fantastic Kenyan people, and I faced very warm welcome. I think it's because, first and foremost, we are all humans. And when I speak about human cost of this war, about people who are fighting for the slightest chance for their children to live without fear of violence, this resonates with people here in Kenya, because there are a lot of things which have no limitation in national borders. Freedom is such thing, and human solidarity as well.
Indeed. Okay, you wanted to add something? Yeah.
Because you've talked a lot about disinformation and truth, and this is something global. And you've done so much work on disinformation and the importance of truth and facts. I wonder if you could share a little bit about your work.
Yes, it's a global problem. And I know from our own experience that war has not just military, but also informational dimension. This dimension has no limitation in national borders, and informational war is going on here in Kenya because Russia tried to overload its social networks in Kenya with fakes, propaganda, to justify this illegal invasion, to hide the war crimes which Russia commits. And why it's a global problem? Because when people spend a lot of time in digital reality, which is overloaded with fakes, disinformation and propaganda, people start to lose their ability to make a distinction between lie and between truth. And now we have a situation when even residents of the small community, of the same small community, they have no more a shared picture of reality. But without a shared picture of reality, people can't do common actions. Without common actions, how we can protect our freedom and how we can provide a normal response to the challenges which our communities are facing. So I think that one of the most important things for current time is to fight for truth.
Fight for truth.
It's not obligation just for environmental activists or human rights defenders or organizations who support women. It's obligation of every honest person to fight the truth between we are in an ocean of disinformation. And that's why the voice of truth became weak. And that is why we have this obligation to amplify this voice.
And we're talking about postmodernism and truth. Truth has become very elusive. I remember one publication of a Time magazine had one president, that is of course known all over the world. They asked, is truth dead? Is truth truly dead? And living in an age of misinformation, disinformation is a niggling worry as well, what is being consumed, especially when you're coming, and this is what I was asking about the space of media, where we have, because I know they operate on the Soviet theory mode of, ownership of media by the state. So everything that really is relayed and being by the state is what is consumed by, the populace there. And this is a constructed narrative that suits the medium of a state at the end of the day. Misinformation, I don't know what you've encountered also in that particular space as well of environment, because I know they're anti, as we mentioned, like Donald Trump is, climate is a hoax. Why are we expending so much money on this? We've not seen the result for the past, for the many years. But the realities are around us, as you can see.
Well, absolutely. Misinformation, disinformation has become the new frontier, and it's in every sector. You mentioned a lot on the climate front. We have to, and especially those with the power of voice and media, give voice to people at the grassroots, voice to the source of information, right? Do not be the source of information for others. What spaces are we creating for others to speak for themselves, to be heard? Who is being heard? Who's being silenced in all of this? And the democratization of that space is equally important. Fighting for truth is fighting for voice, making sure that we're not relying on single narratives and single voices. Because we know that even as that narrative, for example, on climate, continues to be pushed, is climate really happening? It's the stories that are coming and showing us that it is overwhelming, the evidence, what's happening in actuality. So it doesn't matter what is said, what matters is what is experienced, and are we giving voice to those experiences and those who are having the power to do that. Media houses are one, our newspapers, our public platforms. Who are those voices that are telling us what exactly is happening?
And of course you have that particular space in the Saturday Nation, right? Talking about the environment, or a columnist, and that particular space is very important so that you may also correct this as well.
Exactly.
We're taking up to a station break right now. When we circle back, we continue with the conversation. We ask about the sustainability report that we know most of the industries as well are now trying to pick up, the tab and run with it. It is required, especially here in the country as well, and as a global practice, that how is the organizations, the corporate organization also trying to relate to the environment where they're extracting so much? What are they giving back in the spirit of the people, the planet, and the profit? We took a short break. Don't go away. Welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe, a holy court with Wangari Maathai. Also, we have Alexandra with us as well, and Maria Butler. These are champions of humanity. You've heard from their stories. If you're joining us right now, we're just looking at different facets of their spaces where they have been fighting issues to do with human rights, issues to do with the environment, and of course also issues to do with women and peace and leadership in that particular order. So I wanted just to pick up on this, and I don't know if I can spread it to everyone, but particularly because also this is on environment bit. I don't know if the sustainability report also has a component of the human rights in it. We shall also come to it, but particularly, as you know it, I've been wondering, because the world right now is really grappling with what is the metrics of measuring sustainability report.
Yeah.
All these reports that we hear from these corporates that they're churning out, and we do not have a formidable metrics of measuring, the reports, or maybe just interrogating the reports. How genuine are they? Are there elements of greenwashing that comes to bear with them?
Well, there are always risks of greenwashing, green hashing. There's all of these different things. What's important is we realize that growth is not unsustainable. You cannot grow enormously without managing the resources that you have, right? There are limits to growth. There are limits to resource utilization. If you just look at what are the indicators that tell us something is wrong, the rivers of Nairobi is currently one of the big conversations here, that we have to clean our rivers. We talk about the impact on the rivers, but the truth is our rivers are not going to clean themselves if we don't continue to pollute them.
Indeed.
We've got to stop the affluent going into our rivers. What that means is the industries that are located along those rivers have to be managing their waste. So the circularity story is a big part of sustainability. You use resources and you produce waste. Where does that waste go? Part of especially the corporate responsibility is around waste disposal, where that waste goes, air quality, where do we burn waste, and how do we use our resources today. So responsibility is all in the different sectors. We absolutely have to have metrics. The sustainability reports are crucial because they give metrics so that there are limits to how we produce and how we consume. Because if we do not allow for some sort of control and management of that, then we have air quality that is unbreathable. We have air quality, especially in this city today. When we measure, it's sometimes impossible to believe that there's almost nowhere where the air quality is good for us. It actually is almost dangerous or moderately dangerous. So we've got to understand why. It is pollution from our cars. So it's how we manage the pollution from vehicles. It's pollution from burning open waste, how we manage the burning of waste. All of that is the responsibility of, yes, our corporates, but also our governments.
All right. And I want just to ask you, Alexandra, on that particular issue, I don't know that component that you also follow, aside from just these atrocities that really come with the war, we have people also who are working, and sometimes we have this work injury compensations, right? That is not really addressed by the government, it's not really addressed by organizations. People, they come to you, they have their limb cut, they can't survive anymore because they can't work as well. You as a human rights defender in that particular space that is coming from the corporate side of it, talking about even maybe working gears that you're not really resourced with when you go to work as well. How have you been also tackling this?
You are totally right. Justice is very complicated and things which have different components. I work with people affected by this war directly, and I know that some people see justice as a possibility to see their perpetrators behind the bars. But for another people, justice means compensations. And without compensations, they will feel unsatisfied because they lost everything in this war. For some people, justice means just a possibility to know truth, what happened with their beloved ones. For another people, justice means a possibility to be publicly heard, and to get this public recognition
Indeed.
that something which happened with them and their families is not just immoral but also illegal. And that is why we, being a human rights lawyer, we developed the comprehensive justice strategy to reach all these needs. So justice is very important for people because justice has this healing effect, and justice means a lot of different components. And let me illustrate it with a story. This is a story of 62-year-old civilian Alexander Shelipov. He was killed in the first days of large-scale war by Russian soldiers just for fun. He was civilian, he was unarmed, he was near his house. This tragedy received a huge media coverage only because this Russian soldier was arrested, and it was the first court trial since the large-scale war started. In the court, I heard his wife, Katerina. His wife, Katerina, shared with the judges that her husband was an ordinary farmer, but he was her whole universe. And she told to the judge that now I'm lost everything. This is the meaning of justice. When we invest enormous efforts to understand what's happened with ordinary farmer in the smallest village of my country. And justice is precondition to peace. Because Russia committed horrible crimes, not just in Ukraine. Russia committed atrocities in Chechnya, in Georgia, in Syria, in Libya, in Mali, in other countries of the world, and they have never been punished. We must break the circle of impunity. It's our obligation.
Right. Of course, injustice everywhere, right? Anyways, injustice everywhere, as they normally say. Let me come to you, Maria, and ask you on the question still on when you talk about women and tokenism. This has been, a big issue as well in the corporate sector and the board sector, where they feel they always talk about the golden skirt effect, because now there is all this activism about women being empowered and they should be represented in the boards as well. So they're just there maybe to serve tea and just to be like flower girls around the boardroom as well. So in your line of work, then how do you draw a demarcation line between, this has just been installed as a tokenism, or this is a vocal woman who has deserved the right to be in this particular board? The golden skirt effect, they call it, right?
I haven't heard that one.
The golden skirt, I think from the Nordic countries is where we have a golden skirt effect, yes.
Yes, it's not only about changing the players, but about changing the rules of the game. I think that's what I've learned from the women's movement and women's organizations. It's about addressing, as Alexandra so rightly said, systems of injustice, whether it's in business or schools. Growing up in Ireland, as I said, why can't girls go to this? Why can't girls be altar servers? I said in my parish. Ask those questions.
Yes.
And so it is about changing the rules of the game, not just the players. I totally believe that, to transform the systems that we live in and to see them. I think that's part of the lens of feminism that I've learned from feminism from all over the world, not only from Europe, from Africa, is to ask where are the women, which women, and make space. I think we heard that yesterday in our convening. I think it was Lema Bowie from Liberia that said part of power for her is about giving up some power as well. Empowerment is about sharing power and seeing power, and power with, not over power over. Because sometimes great women get into powerful positions, and they're not looking back to lift up. And what I've seen here and with Wajira and with others is an emphasis on lifting up.
Lifting up.
Not pulling the ladder, that they say, once you get up, you pull the ladder from
everybody else.
But to see, okay, who's able to come up? And Alexandra has dedicated time to supporting Ukrainian young women who've been displaced all over the world. And I really, really value that work that leaders do and continue to do to share power.
And then just to follow up on this, and I think time is ticking up for us as well, because we want also to focus largely what is happening with the geopolitics bit of it and how it's going to affect the entire conversation as well. There is a dispensation of artificial intelligence, and how is it also maybe aiding or sometimes exacerbating the ills maybe in your space as well. That is something that we want to delve deeper. But one of the things that has been globally of concern is the human trafficking, and women have been adversely affected by this. Here, we've had people, you know, small children even being put in water bowsers. People think that we're carrying waters, but actually children are inside there. You know, they're being trafficked to other countries. It's been such a worry, and that has really ticked up. I wonder how then, in this particular space, you're trying also to address this. Or like this is really, Alexander, this is really up your alley as well. Yeah.
It's a very important issue in the context of Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, because Russia illegally kidnapped and deported to Russia from Ukraine dozens of thousands of Ukrainian children. Dozens of thousands of Ukrainian children were separated with their families and illegally transported to Russia, put in Russian re-education camps, told, you're not Ukrainian, you're Russian children. Your families, your parents refused from you, and you will be adopted by Russian families who will bring you up as Russians. It's so systematic policy that International Criminal Court issued arrest warrants against Russian President Vladimir Putin and his child commissioner Maria Lvova-Belova. And now International Criminal Court is conducting investigation, and this lead to a situation that any world leader which shakes Putin's hand have to know and acknowledge that he's shaking hand with the biggest child kidnapper in the world, and it's not political statement, it's legal statement of International Criminal Court. And for us, it's a huge problem how to return these children back to their families. We have, according to Ukrainian official data, 20,000 Ukrainian children being deported. I'm sure that the real number is much higher. And just several hundreds we managed to return back. And this is a problem, especially taking into account that Russian legislation provides a possibility for adoptive families to change the name of the child, the date of birth, the place of birth. This means that when we speak about small children, like 2 years old, 3 years old, just in some time they will forget their parents, they will forget their real names, they will forget who they are. So it's a huge problem, and I will be very grateful if Kenya government will provide humanitarian support to solve this issue.
It's a niggling worry, yeah. Maria, you want to speak to it as well from your own perspective of how you can advocate to fight for this particular ills that is affecting the women, the children who are bearing the brunt globally.
Yeah, wherever and throughout history where there has been conflict and war, there is exploitation, and we've seen this in Bosnia, we've seen it across the continent. And together, I think it's a huge spotlight that Nobel laureates can join forces to also condemn those that exploit women and children and men and the most vulnerable for profit. Because that's what it's about. It's about exploitation for profit. And we need to address those root causes and challenge them at every level. And we see a huge complicity of military involvement in trafficking, police, military, security infrastructure, both their use and their involvement in the transfer of victims and survivors. And this is the responsibility of national governments, of regional governments and the global authorities to address the root causes and make those actors who have the responsibility in international law implement them.
Indeed.
This is illegal, it's immoral, and it's wrong. And profit cannot come above our children and women.
Right, of course, so this is the barbarity of humanity, the dark side of it. When you're talking about the military-industrial complex, it's not just about the pillage that really happens with the resources, it's also the women and the children who are adversely affected by this. Anna Odida is standing by to just give us some feedback as well as we try and slake our thirsts. And we throw it over to Anne. What are people saying?
All right, we are talking about the Middle East crisis. Let's take a look at what...
All right, you missed it with me, Anne. You were standing by. I can see you. All right, let's just get the feedback. What is happening?
Absolutely. Let's cross over to Facebook. Grace watching from Nairobi, and she says, Kenya should stay neutral. We have citizens working in the Gulf and tensions could affect their safety. Michael is watching from Mombasa and he says, with instability hitting fuel prices and flights, Kenya must think strategically and protect its economic interests. Aisha is watching from Kisumu and she says, we need peace fast. Choosing sides pulls us into conflicts that aren't ours. Dennis is watching from Eldoret and he says the world is dangerous right now. Kenya needs strategic alliances, not fence sitting, but it must prioritize our people. Linda from Nakuru says neutrality doesn't guarantee safety. We depend on trade and security partnerships, so there must be a clear foreign policy. Let's cross over to X now. Geopolitics KE says if Kenya is seen as neutral, it might avoid becoming collateral in global rivalries. Kenya Job Fast says global wars affect inflation and jobs here. Strategic diplomacy that secures Kenya's economy matters more. Diaspora Mom says with so many Kenyans in the Gulf, the government must prioritize their safety first. Policy Debate KE says neutrality is not neutrality if you're already aligned through security cooperation with some powers. And finally, Africa First Voice says African nations should be independent decision makers, not forced into great power conflicts. These are some of the feedback we're getting with regard to the conversation on the Middle East crisis. Keep interacting with us. Our WhatsApp number is 0793-267-279. Send us a voice note or a video of what you think is happening in the Middle East. Socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, and on X at TV47 Digital. This is Morning Cafe. Back to you, Deepa.
Many thanks indeed, Anne. And this is where we want to just have our panelists also just chiming in as far as championing for humanity is concerned, because atrocities are going to arise from this. So far, we've seen the scale of numbers of lives lost, both from Israel and also Iran, where we have the huge dent happening there. And some soldiers also have lost their lives, children and women are bearing the brunt of this. Before I head there, just quickly, because we're just about to wind up, the question of the regulatory framework, especially when it comes to the clean cooking gas. And you're aware what really happened with the cocoa recently, because the government did not renew, the license as well. That has adversely affected some people. 700 jobs have been lost so far. I know also you sit in the Council of the Cooking Gas Alliance as well. I don't know how you received this message. How did you take it?
Well, it's really important that we understand what happened. So, and I don't know that we have yet the full picture of what happened. It's really important that we don't make we don't cast assumptions on a story we don't fully understand. So I'll have to admit that I don't have the full
knowledge
picture.
about it.
However, I think we have an obligation to lean in to create legislation that incentivizes clean, renewable energy. This is a country that has 90% energy, green energy in the grid. That's the energy we have. And one of the smartest and most cost-effective investments for us would be to invest in the energy we have. And so that's one of the areas where we have to go. Look at what happened in Ethiopia just a couple of years ago. Ethiopia made a decision that the energy they have is renewable, and therefore electric vehicles will be a policy. So their EV policy kicked in with immediate effect, even before they had enough charging stations, enough all of this. But that has followed. So policy and signaling from our governments is important. The stories like cocoa, and that cannot be the isolated one. We have to understand, because we cannot allow renewable energy and the movement towards renewable energy to fail. So this is something we have to lean into and understand fully.
Right, indeed, indeed. Right, we come to what is happening currently, and I'm just wondering, I should say, are we facing the specter where also the Ukraine-Russia war is going to be swallowed up with all this attention now going to the global, the global scale of it, of US-Iran war? There has been negotiations which has been ongoing, all right, and we were hoping for a happy medium to really happen at the end of the day. Some of the demands that have been made, atrocious, just we want the rare arts, and so also your president has been in a very tight position, we've seen, but he's actually he's fought very well. I don't know, what is your take on this, and especially with the human rights component that is happening right now?
My heart is with the people in Iran. I was shocked when I got information that more than 60,000 peaceful protesters were brutally killed just recent weeks and months. And I live in a war which Russia has launched, and we know what death means for people in such enormous amount. But here in Iran, they had no war. It was just brutal regime who murdered its own people. And now with this bombardment, I really don't know what will be the next, because I also afraid of people's safety. If you're under rockets bombardment, you have to get bomb shelters to hide. I don't know whether or not people in Iran have these bomb shelters at all. So it's a very huge problem. And Russian war of aggression against Ukraine is not just one hot spot in the globe. There are a lot of conflicts and wars are going on. And International Committee of Red Cross told that the numbers of this armed conflict are bigger than after the Second World War. So we are going in a very dangerous world. Because this system of peace and security has been collapsed, and fires like wars emerge more and more often in different parts of the globe, because this international wiring is faulty and sparks are everywhere. And what might taken away from this situation? If we start to compete with each other for attention, we all lost. We all lost. We have to cooperate with each other and to fight for justice. Because if we want to fight for justice, we have to fight for justice globally. Because you can't build a paradise, even being an island, if another part of the globe is bleeding. We, much more than ever before, need human solidarity. Because first and foremost, we are people. And then we are citizens of some concrete countries, or people with some concrete religion, or people with some concrete color of skin, and so on and so forth. First and foremost, we are all human beings.
First and foremost, we're all human beings. Yeah, indeed, indeed. Right, Maria, you want to also comment? I don't know, what is your take currently looking at what is happening?
We are very concerned for the Iranian people and people across the region. We have, on behalf of the 8 Nobel laureates that work and lead Nobel Women's Initiative, they have consistently called out the tyranny of the regime, which has really attacked journalists, human rights defenders, civil society leaders, including our own sister laureate, Nargis Mohammadi, who has been imprisoned for 10 years in Iran. And they have called out war. And it is a moment to look for these leaders that are brave to call out the abuses of war and tyranny, and to show that it is critical that any transition now is led by the Iranian people, and that they hold the power of the future of Iran. And we look to leaders like Dr. Shirin Ebadi, Nargis Mohammadi, the many, many Iranian women who came to the street in the Women Life Freedom movement, young women who mobilized across the country and still are working. It's them we look to right now to express the solidarity of the global movement and of the Nobel laureates at this moment.
Thank you very much. Maybe I'll just give each of you closing remarks, being a big day, Wangari Maathai, for what she's done for this country. What we have up your collective sleeves for the day. I know you've been holding this conferences, and some of the highlights that have been coming from there. So we're heading to Karura.
We are heading to
Where are the gumboots? It's very muddy right now.
Well, it's fine. That's what we like. The trees will grow. Yeah. But, you know, it is a wonderful day. And I just want to say, in solidarity with our sisters, that especially I've learned so much from Alessandra about just the human face of suffering and pain. And that's what we must lean into. And for all of us around the world, our role in providing safe haven, safe passage, supporting organizations like the Center of Civil Liberties that is doing really good work, that's where we must show up. There is no excuse for either not giving time, talent, or treasure to organizations and women's groups around the world that do good work in places of conflict. That solidarity comes right back to us. So on this Wangari Maathai Day, for me, the big word is solidarity. We will be planting trees in Karura, so I hope that we're all there. But I leave you with this thought, that we know nowhere in the world has any economy thrived by destroying its environment. Indeed. It is a self-defeating strategy. We have got to lean into our environment as a support system. And Wangari Maathai said once, the state of a country's environment reflects the state of its governance.
Indeed. Very telling. Very telling. Very telling. Indeed. I like it. And I think we should close on that particular note. Let's just hear from Alexandra, your closing remarks.
I would like to use this opportunity to express my sincere gratitude to people in Kenya for your solidarity and for your support in this dramatic time of our history. Ukraine and Kenya are far from each other when we speak about geographic point of view, but we are very close when we speak about values.
Indeed. Thank you. Maria, your closing remarks.
And on behalf of Nobel Women's Initiative, the whole collective we have here, thank you for the dancing.
There's more dancing. Also for Alexandra to be there.
And the great food. I've eaten mukimo. How do you say it?
Mukimo.
Every day, I think. And thank you for your work and leadership. Wanjira, the foundation, the Greenbelt Movement. Asante sana from us all.
One more thing.
Yes.
The Greenbelt movement is recruiting members, right? It is a solidarity movement. This Wangari Maathai Day, join the Greenbelt movement. Go on to the Greenbelt movement website. Full membership. Join and be part of a movement that is saving this country's environment.
You know, also Maria mentioned, I'll be remiss just briefly, because you mentioned sisters to sister. And many viewers maybe have taken interest of that. You said it's quite competitive. Right, that you have, there's a lot that it needs to go there before you check off.
We had many Kenyan sisters this year.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, we had, I don't know, but maybe like 4 at least in the 25 cohort. So we had a great Kenyan leadership.
Fantastic.
So we hope for more.
Thank you, Maria Butler, the Executive Director, Nairobi. That is Nobel Laureate. I'm opening a chapter of Nairobi here.
NWI Nairobi.
That is Nobel Laureate Women Initiative. Thank you so much for coming through. We really do appreciate also Alexandra Matvichuk. Right? Did I get it right? You know, of course, that is the chairwoman of the Center for Civil Liberties. Thank you for coming through and for the good work that you're doing to defend, of course, humanity. And Wangari Maathai, thank you for coming through as well. She is the Managing Director, Africa and the Global Partnership. This is World Resource Initiative. And of course, also the Greenbelt Movement and what you're doing. Such a salutary effort. Thank you so much for coming. I've really learned a lot. Yeah, I'm heading over also to the website right now to be a member of the Greenbelt movement to make sure we're greening the environment. And I always say that we've not really, they say that we've not borrowed this earth from our ancestors, right? We've not inherited it from our ancestors, but we've borrowed it from our children. Have a lovely day. Thank you for your valued company. My name is Dibala Ine.